Hello, and welcome to a brand new show all about the villains in Doctor Who. In this thrilling first episode, we'll be talking about one of the most famous villains in all of Doctor Who history. For, literally from the get-go, it is the most famous villain, even if you've never watched Doctor Who. You'll know this villain. They're out of this world. Now, personally, I'll say that they are in the top 10 best villains, but they're also in the most well-known villain category that almost nearly every Doctor, almost, not definite, almost nearly every Doctor has actually fought against this villain. Even the films that aren't technically canon have used these. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about the aliens that when you want in some garlic, it sounds a lot like them. It rhymes with garlic. It's one and only the Daleks. Roll theme tune. Where to begin? The best place to start is all the way in the 60s. Then in the 60s, now sadly passed away, the amazing Terry Nation came up with the idea of the creation. Now, if anyone doesn't know, and this will be a brief step back in time. So Terry Nation, for non-Doctor Who fans, if you're listening, Terry Nation is best known, other than Doctor Who, for Blake 7 and for Spires. Now, Terry Nation is a writer at the end of the day. And in the 60s, at the very beginning of Doctor Who's tenure, as in the existence of Doctor Who, it wasn't going to be a show about villains, monsters, aliens. It was educational and for children. Now, the target audience of Doctor Who has grown from children to families. So we've not really leaped that far, but we have become less educational. Now, if it wasn't for Terry Nation, we wouldn't have had what we had in the end. Because, I'll tell you for why we're going slightly off script here. I have a mini script that has a gist of what I need to say, so we're going off it. So, in the 60s, at the very beginning, Sidney Newman, who was a Canadian, sorry if you can hear excess noise, it was me just make sure I didn't fall off my chair. I'm sat in a chair and I was about to fall down. I'm like, no, I'm gonna fall. I didn't want to fall off my chair. So at the very beginning, Sidney Newman, who worked at the BBC, who is actually a Canadian, so a Canadian thought of this show. Now, what happened was we had this concept, and it was about trying to help teach kids about historical events in a fashionable way that doesn't not only did it try to educate about Romans, it was trying to be like start off with a caveman, right? So he got this script through, and he didn't want any monsters, but what happened was that it didn't end up being like that. And what I mean by that is that the aliens were well thought enough that the Doctor, that Sidney Newman wanted to utilise them, right? Because they were that good. And he had to be convinced. To be fair, it wasn't like a oh yay, they're really good. It was a being convinced type situation. And because it was a type of situation. It's like, well, no, I don't want these, but what you had to put in mind was that she had to explain, Verity Lambert had to explain that no. These aren't your average villains. These are monsters with googly eyes. These are scared souls that have protected themselves. And that's what the Daleks are. They are they are creatures that are protecting themselves with this armor on top. And so the Daleks get born. Now, for some context, music-wise, at the time, in the 60s, the Beatles were coming around. And if we all remember, because it's historically known, right, of something called Beatlemania. Now, Beatlemania is where the Beatles, the musical band, were absolutely like famous, well known, loved, beloved, everywhere. And you saw everything to do with the Beatles. They tried to sell everything, right? But once the Daleks debuted on TV, which was the second ever story to debut in the 60s in Doctor Who, because Classic Who, which is what 60s from 1963 to all the way to the 80s, is Classic Who, and it was called Dalek Mania. Now, Dalek Mania was like I can't tell you how much. There was toys, there was lunchboxes, there was, well, Peter Cushing at the time, who is very much well known in any case for Dracula in the Hammer horror film series. Most horror fans know this, and he became the Doctor. So he was William Hartnell, who is the first Doctor, and so they adapted the story. First of all, the TV story that introduced the Daleks, because of how popular that was at the time. And obviously it was a smash hit, because Dalek Mania was literally rapid. There was a documentary once, I don't actually know where it's available or where it began, but I remember seeing it on Talking Pictures, which is the TV channel, called Dalek Mania. So you couldn't get away from these creatures, and throughout the historical legacy, shall we say, of Doctor Who, these Daleks have become like everywhere. So from on my desk, where I in HQ, which is 2Gem Productions HQ, I have a Dalek on my desk, right? Because if you're right for the Doctor, every Doctor at some point or other has to fight against the Daleks. Whether or not Shooty Catwell will ever do that in the first series is yet to be known, but the Daleks are so popular that they're in comics, audio. The audio versions for Big Finish, which is an audio drama company for the Daleks, are quite fascinating, right? Because their catchphrase is exterminate. And Nicholas Briggs, who is one of the bosses at Big Finish, he is a new Who voice of the Daleks, and he also, because he has a ring modulator, which is the modern technology to create the Dalek's voice. You do this, exterminate, so you do that with your voice. Exterminate, exterminate, kill the Doctor, kill the Doctor, exterminate, exterminate. And then, with the ring modulator, which is a box, you can get software that is like the ring modulator for software, so you can do it at home. But the ring modulator alters the voice, so I can't do it now, because it's actually, when you try to do it on Audacity, which is a free music editing software, it's actually harder than you think. You have to watch this tutorial, and it's a good tutorial, might I add, because I've obviously managed to do it. But it is a harder process, so it's not exactly correct, because the ring modulator is quite expensive. One day when I work out when I find a cheaper alternative, I'll probably get a ring modulator because I am not living life without it. Right? I mean, as in literally, I'm not. At some point in the future, I will be faffing about as Dalek, telling people on the internet to subscribe, or people on the internet that well, I will try to sing "Don't Blame It on the Boogie," which would be absolutely hilarious, might I add. So the ring modulator then alters the voice to give it the Dalek tone, but because you're already doing the voice like that, because you are extending it and you are going to save the day, the ring modulator works in that favour. So it just alters your voice to make it sound more like a Dalek, which I shan't attempt to do any more of an impression of it because I don't have a ring modulator and I'm not doing an impression. Right. It's not, it's not Whose Line Is It Anyway where I have to do an impression because it's only a game, but a real good fact. So, the Daleks have lasted for years. Originally, because we're opening a vault of villains here. Originally, the Daleks couldn't go upstairs. Now, they couldn't go upstairs due to not because of the villain aspect, not because it's, oh yes, this makes them excellent villains, they can't go upstairs, it means that the Doctor's always going to win against them. No, it was because of technology then. Because you couldn't CGI, you can do all sorts to try and get someone to go up, fly, right? Fly wasn't really necessarily something that you would see on TV. But well, they did have harnesses to fling someone across, but you didn't really see much of the action taking place. And so the Daleks didn't fly, didn't go upstairs, didn't do this, didn't do the other. But what they did do was be very menacing, because one of the most famous cliffhangers of all time, right, is when Barbara, who was one of the first outside commanding other than Susan Foreman, who is the Doctor's granddaughter, she gets scared, and then it ends because she goes, ah! And then it ends. And last year, to celebrate 60 years of Doctor Who, the very first story got colorised. It got omnibused, which is what they do with EastEnders, the Archers, and they used to do it a lot with soaps, as in soap operas. And they omnibused it, shrunk bits down, colorised it, and brought it out on BBC4, which was, might add, very good. It wasn't like revolutionary, but it was really good. It took you 3, maybe 4 minutes to understand the vibrancy of it, and to understand which bits they've cut, because if you've seen the original story, you'll know which areas they've cut, you'll know how they've cut it, and you'll know the specifics of what's being cut. Now, to make matters any better, when Doctor Who came back in 2005, Russell T Davies, showrunner at the time, a newly renewed showrunner, had thought, right, I'll bring the Daleks back. So he brought the Daleks back in a menacing way, which is what you need from a villain. You need the villain to be menacing, but not too scary that you frighten children, and not overly, not right. So not too scary in the actual sense of scary, but it also had to be not pretending to be scary and then just upsetting horror fans that it's not really that scary, because you can tell it's trying to push yourself to be that scary, and you don't want that to happen, really. At the end of the day, you don't want things pushed on you to push out that something's going to be scary. You want it just to claw back at you, and you want it to gently scare you. So the villains came back, and the advantage of technology, we already had it slightly in the 80s with them flying, but these Daleks were more menacing than ever. These Daleks in New Who had become more evil. Now, one person that made the Daleks so evil that has had so many iterations, such as, well, so many iterations because prosthetics have improved, and the outer shell of the Dalek changes a lot because you have you have your traditional blue and grey Daleks, so blue domes and grey body. And then you have your standard brown and gold, so gold domes, brown body. The domes are the circular bits on top of the Daleks. Now, Russell T Davies also in the early days of Who brought back a character that was evil. He's the one that, when he does come back, he can manipulate you and can make you feel like you're something else. It is Davros. Now, Davros is the Emperor, the Oracle, the owner of the Daleks. He's I would say half human, but that's incorrect. He's got a human-like body at top, and he is attached to the bottom like a wheelchair. Then, because you have to have it, you have a Supreme Dalek, which is, well, you have this massive Emperor Dalek that was just the head. The rest of it was like this colossal big body. When you got the figures for it from this collectible figure company, where they sell these massive figures that obviously you don't play with because they're on stands. It's bigger than your cabinet that you put them in. And so the Daleks are pretty much the most well-known thing in Doctor Who history, villain-wise. So, in my room right now, I can already see about 4, maybe 5 Daleks. So I'll tell you the rate, I've got 2 Dalek posters. I've got a Dalek Mr. Mr. Potato Head. I've got the Dalek figures I was just telling you about that were with a stand, and I've got a Dalek toy on my desk, which I've previously mentioned in this episode. So, back to the main point at hand with the Daleks being these menacing, evil, conniving villains. They'll kill you. They'll do all. They're not as barbaric when recruit. They don't really recruit people like the Cybermen do. They're another kettlefish for another episode, actually, because they are barbaric. What I mean by that is that they do things that you would not want to happen. Then the scenes that I'm on about in New Who are quite terrifying if you're a small child. So back to the Daleks, because we're nearly coming towards the end of the episode today. The Daleks themselves have the way around them that they try. There is evidence that Daleks don't always want to be evil, but then there's always been a deploy to try and become more evil by pretending they're not evil. When you open up a Dalek on the inside, which personally you can actually do in real life, and I wouldn't recommend it if you're ever in Doctor Who, and they said, right, open up the Dalek, and it is CGI, I think, what's on the inside, but it might be practical effect. But it's like this octopus type thing, so it's an eye, and then it looks hideous. So I think of a good word for it. It looks hideous. It looks weird. It looks awful, and it, to me, looks like it's trying too hard to be frightening, to be scary, to be, I don't know, out there, in a sense of how much out there can be. And the Daleks themselves aren't that scary, because why would you talk about them in a pepper pot fashion? Why would you talk about the plunger, which all intents and purposes, is a fascinating way to kill someone in a Dalek sense, because as we all know, the Daleks have a zapper that goes. I'll do that again. I'll do that again. And then they have this plunger that goes. Let's try to do this expression one last time. On your marks, get set, go. And they try and get attached that way. And what they do is they attack the face, and you can't escape from that because these dark arms are, and not many people would say this, but expandable. Now, when I say expandable, I really do mean expandable. As long like they can expand, and you might have like the world's largest face, like your eyes, your mouth, your nose, like so far apart from each other. It's like you're like some sort of giant. Well, a Dalek still could kill you because it'll probably zap you. Now now in the New Who era, it is a zap, as in the bzzm, 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 bzzm. And in Classic Who, it was more in the New Who, Classic Who, because one was a CGI laser, and two was the practical effect of smoke. And the smoke has the same effect as the laser, but the smoke can probably actually kill someone. Probably can, if someone had asthma whilst they were on set, it could have made them choke, which is on the list of things we didn't want to happen on set. I say we. I wasn't really there, was I? I'm not like an old ancient man that was there when all that began, because obviously I wouldn't be here now talking to you if I was there then, because I'm not weird. As in, I'm not like weird as I'm a time traveler, because even though time travel technically could and might exist, I don't think anyone's done a popular formula in the scientific sense to try and say, yes, they do exist, and yes, here's how they do exist. Now, what I'd like to say, as we're coming towards the end of today's episode, in my list of favourite villains in all of Doctor Who, right, because I have a favourite villain in all of Doctor Who, I think that the Daleks are number 2 on the list. Only because it's like impossible to make your own Dalek, impossible to do your own impression of a Dalek, because it sounds like I am talking but being really patronising about it, which at the end of the day, I don't want, you don't want, neither of us want. So I think the Daleks are really hard to impressionise and really hard to make as a costume. But I do know that a lot of people, a few people actually, have Daleks in their homes. I can't remember his name, but there's a bloke there's a family that have this Dalek that they use in the house as a kid's toy. So what I mean is that they let the Dalek play with the kids, let the Dalek talk to the kids, let the kids pretend to be a Dalek, and you can hop inside it. My favourite is if the Dalek says, "Hello, do you want a cup of tea, a cup of tea, a brew, cuppa?" And I just think that would be absolutely outstanding, hilarious, funny, and just a chance for you to go wild, right? Wild beyond your wildest dreams. So wild that even this episode that is roughly either between 30 and 28 minutes long, and it makes you think, yeah, you can talk about Daleks that long. You just don't think until you start, do you, how long you can actually talk about Daleks for, because Peter Cushing destroying the Daleks is one of the most memorable and interesting. In the second film, Doctor Who, and I think he's like 52 AD. I think that's it. On the lines of that, there you can see. So I don't think you see it enough in the actual main show, but I know that in the films you see the Dalek being pushed about. They don't look. I'll be honest. Right, I'm not the strongest man in the world. They don't look very. Well, they look very heavy, right? But these people are just pushing them left, right, and centre. Whether or not they were made of cardboard, that's another question for another day, for another thing altogether. But to me, they feel really heavy. Well, I've never touched one to try and push it and knock it off a balcony to make it fall out of a out of a set of a spaceship. It just seems quite not dangerous, but quite weird that everyone's like, push, hey, push, hey, push, hey. I was supposed to describe push, woo, wee, and then obviously they become out of action the moment you push a Dalek off a balcony on a spaceship whilst wearing what looks to me, according to the film, the uncomfortable leather. Right, they're wearing this uncomfortable leather with these helmets that are obviously trying to brainwash him, but it's just, I do think that out of the two films is the best Peter Cushing film out there in a Doctor Who sense. So, to round off this episode, to talk about Doctor Who and villains and Daleks, I'd like to say that the Daleks were and still are one of the most iconic villains in all of Doctor Who history. I don't think Doctor Who would be anywhere near as popular as having enough longevity without the Daleks, and I don't think that Doctor Who would be where it is today without Terry Nation, without the Daleks, and without the love, the passion to try and make this one of the best shows on TV as possible. Now, you might be listening and disagreeing with that statement that it is the best TV show in the world, and that's fine. Everyone can have their own opinion. But my opinion goes, Doctor Who is the greatest TV show on the earth. The Daleks are one of the most well-known villains in Doctor Who history, and I don't think they'll be going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, literally, I don't think they'll be going anywhere at all anytime soon, because personally, I don't think you could have Doctor Who without the Daleks. You could have years without Daleks in it, and then they return. Yeah, sure you can, but you can never have just a whole 20, 30 years without Daleks, because it won't live up to the stature of what is Doctor Who. Doctor Who is a program that has villains in it, has monsters, has aliens, has the Daleks, yes. No, not Daleks. No. Daleks without an R. And I love the Daleks as much as a lot of people. They're very lovable, they're evil, they're humorous, and they're just really impressive for a villain. And you wouldn't get that in, I don't know, I can't think of another franchise here, but you wouldn't get that in anything else. Marvel these days, probably. It's something on par, but you wouldn't really get anything that was close to the villainous nature of a Dalek. You wouldn't get anything that's as scary as a Dalek. So, there you have it. That was episode 1, series 1, episode 1 of Open the Vault. Daleks. Hopefully you've enjoyed the episode. Thank you guys for listening. Bye! This program was created by Tom Mason and starred Tom Mason. Open the Villain's Vault is a TGM production. The music for this program was created by Peter Mills, aka Dalekium. And our next episode of the series, which TGM Productions is proud to announce, is going to be a absolute cracker, because I'll tell you why. It's going to be an absolute cracker because it's about a villain that is yet again really well known, again recently returned, and again to Doctor Who fans, these are one of the these are the third greatest villains. Well, villain. It is the Toymaker. So, see you next time when we'll open the Villain's Vault and talk about the Toymaker. Thanks for listening. Bye!